Hello and welcome to Talk About It Tuesday, a podcast short brought to you by Roundtable Mindset. Jamie, welcome.
This is Jamie.
Welcome to our first episode.
I know. We've been talking about this for a few weeks now, so it's kind of exciting to get one out there.
Yeah, it is. And we didn't say anything kind of on purpose, so we're hoping that everybody recognizes that this is on a Tuesday, not a Thursday. So that's the first of many differences.
This is not like a Freaky Friday event. This is Tuesday.
Right. As you can see, our new segment is called Talk About It Tuesday, where we are doing a new segment here to cover all things that are current news articles. Could be goofy, could be funny, serious, breaking news. We just wanted to find a way that we could touch on some of those events that are taking place that we haven't been getting to on our podcast, our regular podcast that we've been wanting to get to. And so this has been an idea, like Jamie was saying, kind of bouncing around in our ideas for the last couple of weeks. We landed on a name a couple of weeks ago, which has been fun. We hope everybody likes it as much as we do. But yeah, this is intended to be a shorter podcast. We're thinking no more than 15, 20 minutes where you can come in, have some fun with us, listen to an article that we picked, that we thought was either interesting, funny, off the wall, weird.
Or an article you submit.
Oh, there it is. Or an article you submit. How fun would that be if we had our listeners start finding articles that they just couldn't believe, and maybe it's not making national news, or a lot of people aren't paying attention to it. Send them our way. We'll be glad to talk about it here. And look, I'm plugging the name as much as I can. Talk about it.
Talk About It Tuesday. Everybody get your drinks ready. And every time you hear Malin say talk about it, because we have now changed the way we say talk about it. It is now taco about it.
Taco about it. So yes, this is our first episode. We're still kind of figuring some things out, but we're excited to talk about our first article here. It's a little bit goofy. It's a little bit off the wall just because we're still cutting our teeth a little bit on this new segment. And so we're just trying to have some fun with ourselves and with it as well. So
this was fun. This is a fun article. I'm excited.
Well, I hope it translates as fun over a podcast as it is when you read it. Oh, and that's another thing I wanted to mention, that we are going to be putting the link to the article that Jamie and I both read in our show notes. So anybody that is listening to this, if you want to pause and go look at the article yourself, you can read it and kind of follow along with us as we're talking about it. Be our guest. Just know that it is in the show notes for your convenience if you want to read it or look over it at any time. It'll be there for you. So, Jamie, do you want to kind of introduce our first article?
Yes. The headline news. It says investigators. That's apparently the department that worked on this article. And it comes from Brevard County, Florida. The first one had to be out of Florida, right?
It's always Florida.
The headline is, "It's bee poop." Honeybees make a big mess in Brevard County community.
First of all, we can all agree, like we can both agree, this did not make national news for obvious reasons.
I literally, as I was reading this article and you and I were talking about it earlier, like a few days ago, I was thinking this poor journalist must be thinking, why me? It reminded me of like Bruce Almighty when he's like reporting on a cookie and all he wants is like to find Al Capone,
No, this is just reeking of, I'm an intern, give me something to do. Go investigate some bee poop over in this little town. That's your story.
Well, okay, so let me lay down a little bit of the story. So, they don't call this a retirement community. It is an active adult community in Titusville, Florida.
Well, wait a minute. Did you say Titusville?
I did. Titusville, Florida.
Well, wouldn't you believe it that was one of our first downloads in this great state of Florida, Jamie? Do you remember that?
I think it was the very first download in the state of Florida. And I remember that because it was in a movie or a show that I was watching at the time. Do you remember that? I was so weirded out by that. It's like synergy. Synergy is happening here.
And now we've come full circle. We're talking about bee poop in the very city. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you to the listeners of Titusville, Florida. So News 6 reports that the neighborhood in Titusville, Florida has been inundated with bees ever since a honeybee farm began operating across the street last year. The article goes on to talk about how they are finding dead bees in their driveways every single day. They have bee traps. They are finding really difficult to clean, sticky bee poop. And let me just say, I had no idea that bee poop would be sticky. I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't know this until this article. So I'm learning something.
Well, here's what I find absolutely hysterical about I mean, there's a variety of different things that I find hysterical. But of all the things that we've heard lately about bees and the bee colonies dying and we don't see honeybees and without them, we can't have food. This article doesn't even touch on the fact that this individual is creating a bee farm to help with the bee population. All it focuses on is the fact that these bees are defecating all over this retirement or active adult community. And I'm like, I think you've missed the angle here. And so it just cracks me up that all the things are being missed, the positive things about this. And it's just fixating on the fact that they have all this bee poop all over everything, including themselves. I think one of the people they interviewed said they can't even go outside because the bees fly over and just drop on them, like just drop bee poop on them.
There are so many quotable quotes, like highlight quotes in this article. One of them, "It's bee poop," said Kitty Greenier. I'm sorry, folks, but that's what it is. It's bee poop.
I mean... First of all, the fact that this piece was even written is baffling to me because I can't even believe we're talking about it on a podcast here, which is funny in and of itself. But again, why is this such a big deal? And I'm sorry, this is going to be very stereotypical of me. This article reads like it is a crotchety old neighbor yelling at the young kid next door for playing in the street or something, right? Like the way this article reads is this active community is sitting here just complaining and moaning and having all these negative thoughts to this guy across the street who all he's trying to do is have a bee farm.
Well, here's here might be why it's part of the problem, Malin. Another resident, Gaston Ganger, explained how unsightly bee droppings can be splattered on vertical surfaces like the exterior walls and of homes and RVs. So, and they have in the article is a link to the television story that they did, and they show
they did not take this to TV. I'm sorry, they didn't.
They took it to TV, and the one guy's like showing his umbrella with the streaks of yellow bee poop on the umbrella, and. They're like, if you leave it on your car for more than a couple days. So one guy was really upset because he had to go get a membership at a car wash so he can go wash his car every day. Their golf cart is covered. Their patios are covered. They're all under a great deal of distress because of these bees.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think it would be very annoying to wash everything off because, again, I know there's some people that take great pride in their yards, the great pride in the exterior of their house, great prides in how their cars look, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I cannot believe that there is this upheaval because of the bee droppings that happen. And now, one thing I didn't get from the article, maybe you got from it, is I didn't understand the sheer volume of bees. Like, are we talking 10,000 bees? Or are we talking 2 million bees?
I also did not see that. I didn't see any numbers of bees. And who can count bees anyway, right? I mean...
Well, there's only 500 that can live in a hive. I don't know.
No. I mean, they move a lot, so I think counting might be a little erroneous anyway. But the article does state that I can't remember what they call a bee farm. Do you remember what they called a bee farm? It's like I can't even pronounce it. apiary?
That's what I was thinking. It's like, is it pronounced? It's
Apiary?
It's APIARY. Apiary?
Or apiary? Yeah, I have no idea. But it is registered. It's probably properly registered with Florida's agriculture agency. There's no indication that he's violating any rules or laws. Guys just trying to save the bees because the whole world, I mean, if you believe the bee movie, the whole world will collapse if there's no bees, right? We need the bees to continue agriculture,
That's
right?
what I'm saying. Like, they're missing the whole angle here, which is the saving bees.
Right. Although I will say there are, this thing is dripping in fantastic.
Yes, we know.
No, it's dripping in fantastic quotes from the residents that are under distress in this community, in this active adult community in Florida. Though I didn't, as I was reading this, it wasn't till toward the end that they started talking to someone who is horribly allergic to bees. And so there is some consideration to be had for someone who has like a deathly terrible allergy to bees, right? That would be really dangerous. Although I guess, I don't know, there are bees in Florida anyway. I mean,
right.
I don't know.
Well, and again, this article, it would be great if that was maybe one of the first things they brought up. It's still towards the end. It's like almost like, oh, and by the way, there's a person that lives here who can't even go outside anymore because if they get stung, they'll die. Like, that's not even one of the leading things they talked about. It is really focusing on the fact that there is bee poop covering everything.
It's the complaint of the bee poop. Yes.
Yeah, like it's like there are people that can die if they go out. Like, to me, that person has some complaints, right? Like, hey, I know that they're not doing anything illegal, but my life is harder now because I live across the street from a bee farm, and here's why. That I would understand, not burying that underneath a pile of bee poop and people's complaints about the bee poop. It's almost like, hey, Johnny, we know that if you get stung, you'll die, but I have to wash my deck off a couple times a day because there is little yellow streaks on it and I don't like it. Like,
oh my gosh. I know.
And you talk about quotes, and the same guy, it's that Gaston Gagner, Gagner. I don't know how to pronounce it. But he was even quoted as saying, they'll stop and they'll poop, or they'll fly by and drop poop. Like, this whole article is nothing more than, I am inconvenienced by the mess that these bees are making, and I don't want to have to wash my stuff.
Well, and I wonder...
You wonder what? Go ahead.
Well, I just wonder, do they know the lady that's saying that she could die if she goes outside and gets stung by all these bees? Like,
I don't think they care.
I hope they're not friends, because that poor woman would be like, dude, who cares about the crap? I could die.
Could you imagine? They're best friends, and she's like, my friends really care about me. Don't worry about me, my kids. I'm taken care of. And literally the same people are like, Ethel, you could die. I don't care. My car has yellow spots all over it that I have to go wash off. I mean, it boggles my mind. I don't get it.
Oh,
I absolutely don't get it.
The quote. Here's the quote from, it is Sanchez. I can't find her first name. I don't see her. Oh, Debbie Sanchez. I don't have a life. I'm sitting here 24/7. I don't dare go outside to the mailbox. I don't dare go to the grocery. If I get stung, I can die. I mean, I feel like they buried the lead. I think that's what it is. They buried the lead.
I'm sorry, Debbie, but we don't care about you or your health as long as our stuff doesn't get pooped on by bees. I mean, that's really the message. Debbie, if you're listening, I would move. I would pack your stuff and leave and go to a community that they actually care about your health and your safety.
Oh my gosh.
And not so much about, hey, there's bees pooping on my stuff, and that's what's going to get me to talk to a reporter and really file and like get myself all fired up.
They have even called the state inspector on this guy.
For Debbie's health? For making sure Debbie's safe?
No. They've called the inspector to make sure that the guy is doing what he's supposed to be doing with his bee enterprise in their backyard. I'm trying to find the name of the guy that owns the place. It's Jester is his last name.
Did you see what the guy who owns it, his suggestion was for the people?
I was going to say, I feel like somebody didn't let him read the rest of the copy before he commented, because I can't imagine that his suggestion would be this. My suggestion is that they buy a car cover.
Well, that makes perfect sense when they think the whole article is about, like, if I had a bee farm and I had a reporter show up and say, hey, do you want to talk about the mess that your bees are making on the neighborhood across the street and all the bee poop? I don't know. And again, you go through the article and they're like, they have to wash their deck more and they have to go and wash their car multiple times a day. I would say the same thing. Buy a car cover. I feel like this whole story was written and they interviewed the bee farm owner. And then at the very end, someone's like, well, you know, Debbie over there could die if she got stung. And he's like, the author of, or the reporter was like, oh yeah, I should probably add that because that's a good idea, or that's a good point. It's like, that should be the whole story, is this woman can't live her life. These are her golden years and she's stuck in a room, nobody caring about her because everything else is getting covered in bee poop. And I don't even know what else to say about it. I really don't.
I think what's interesting is that the land he put his apiary or apiary, we don't know how to pronounce that word. I probably should have looked that up before we started this. But the land he put it on is registered as agriculture land. So I suppose the residents of Titusville, Florida, could go and argue that it needs to be rezoned for non-agriculture land, and then maybe he would have to move his bees elsewhere. Another suggestion could be to not plant flowers in your yard. Like, don't attract them. I don't know. But I'm really sorry to Debbie, who has to stay inside 24/7. I really do feel bad.
Really, the tragedy in this whole article, which is mentioned all of maybe 5 words, is Debbie, who has to now live her life inside a building that she can't even walk outside of. So our heart goes out to you, Debbie. Debbie, also feel
move to Nebraska. We will take care of you. We don't have a whole lot of bees here. Just join us. We will take care of you.
we will take care of you. I also think that there's half a story here that's not being told. And I don't know why I feel that way, other than just what's listed here doesn't even give me enough to be like, this is worth a story even being written about. So I have to believe there's pieces that are missing. And I want to know the full story. So here's an invitation to anybody that is in Titusville, that's in this community. If you are hearing this and you want your voice to be heard, I am dying to know, what are we not hearing in this article? Like, what is it that's not coming through? Because I got to be honest, I read this and I'm thinking, these people from this community, they just like to complain about just about anything. And I'm sure that's not fair, but that's where it's leaving me.
Well, and I guess I don't feel that way, just because, I mean,
you were reading the same article I was.
Well, I was. But to be fair, I think it's not like they moved there and this was an established thing. They did have some bees farther away or something like that, according to the article. Then they put these hives in much closer to the community. And so it's a new thing. And these people have worked hard for their property and they've worked hard for the things that they have. And so I'm sure that's a really difficult thing to adjust to. So I have some empathy, but I would say, can someone go check on Debbie? Like, right. Go take her some groceries so she doesn't have to go to the grocery store. Can someone pick up her mail for her? And let's buy her a bee suit. Maybe we could all pitch in and get her a bee suit so she can go on vacation somewhere else. And like I said, Nebraska, come on. And
I don't want to make fun of people who are allergic to bee stings, because that is a serious thing. It really is. All I'm saying is, if you're the family and friends of Betty, and I would check in on her regularly, because obviously the people in this community are not really thinking of her, because they're like, my stuff's getting pooped on, and that is way more important than anybody's health and life in this community, apparently. So
before we close, I have to tell you, somehow I touched something on the article on my phone, and it took me a whole different website, primebees.com. And it says Bee Poo, a discovery. It's a whole article just about bee poop, like an educational article about bee poop, and it shows different types of bee feces.
I can't.
There's pictures.
I can't. I'm sorry.
Sending this to you.
You can send it to me all you want, but I'm done talking about bee poop on this article. So I hope you had a little bit of fun with us. This was meant to be just a silly little article, something we found to kind of kick us off. We already have a collection of articles that we were willing to talk about, anything from sci-fi to current events to some just weird stuff that we came across that were like, this is not real, but it is. And we cannot wait to talk to you about them. So we're excited. And again, if you find something that is in your region or area that's not making national news and you think it should, send it our way. We'd love to talk about it on our new segment, Talk About It Tuesday.
Thanks so much for joining us. And we hope to see you on Thursday when we drop our full episode on all of the major platforms. But thanks for joining us today. And we will see you next week on Talk About It Tuesday.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.